The most amount of miles I've ran in 1 week, so 7 days, is 212 miles. I was doing this running challenge, it was a lot, and after that I had to really dial back and recover, and I had a little bit of like ankle and knee stuff that was bothering me, a little bit of shin pain, so I came back from that, and that was just more of a fun challenge, though to hit the point of weekly mileage, I don't care about that as much anymore. I still want to improve, I want to be clear about that, I still try and build. There was just a time when I was training for a sub 3 hour marathon that I was really focused on 70, 80, 90 mile weeks, and it happened to work, and I think over enough time of doing that I eventually got burned out. I did run that marathon in 2 hours 58 minutes and 45 seconds, so I am proud of that. I just started to look at the wholeness of training and the many different pillars involved with that to be healthier and actually get faster and feel better, and not just improve my running but also not be so burnt out throughout my day, because I have a job, I have family I want to hang out with, friends I want to see, I got dogs that I need to walk and take care of. And so I've been starting to look at running as more of a wholesome approach, and what I want to talk about in this video is the four main pillars, you could call them, or four main things I try and fit into a week of training. And if I accomplish all of those, I'm not as upset anymore about how many miles I did or the weekly mileage. Like I said, I'd love to get to the point where I run 100 miles a week for a training cycle or a training block. It's not worth it to me if it compromises my energy throughout my day with work. If I skip my strength training, I feel a lot of pain and have to gut through most of the runs. And so I want to talk about that, so maybe you can relieve some of the pressure of, oh, I'm not running that much. Ultimately, yes, I do want to improve and run more. I just have these other things that are really important. And I think if you look at these four different pillars, you're also going to have a more wholesome, healthy training for the most part. Ultimately, you have to find out what works for you. But I want to talk about the four things I try and get in for training every week. And because I'm doing all four of these things, I might run 50 miles instead of 80 or 90 like I was for that marathon training block. So maybe someday I'll be fit enough to be able to manage all of this. Like, if my base runs were at 7-minute mile pace, then I would have more time to run more. And I get the whole, like, if you want it, make time. I feel like I use my time pretty decently. And so if I get faster someday, maybe I can run 15 miles in 2 hours instead of 8 or 10 or 11, whatever it is. So let's talk about those four pillars. Hopefully you get something out of this to implement into your own training. And really the point of this is to be well-rounded, to reduce injury, to feel good throughout my day and throughout my runs. And so the first pillar we have to talk about is base work. So I'll give you all four of them. I got base work, speed work, strength training, and flexibility. And so the idea is it's not worth it to have 90-mile weeks if I can't address all these pillars at once, because again, it'll reduce my injury risk and keep me healthy and keep me strong. And I think I'd argue it actually makes me faster and better as a runner. We can get trapped in the volume game, and I'm all for pushing your limits, and hey, maybe you need to do a 212-mile week one time, and so you forget strength work, but you're trying to push yourself and set a new weekly mileage goal. When it comes to general training, I focus on all four of these things. So like I said, base work. This is easy running, zone 1, zone 2 type of running, if you're familiar with what that is. You got 5, I've seen some people say 6 heart rate zones out there, but if you are talking about the traditional 5 zones, you got like recovery zone 1, base or aerobic fitness zone 2, you got zone 3, zone 4, which is your tempo, lactate threshold work, and then you got repeat type stuff, zone 5, like 200 meters, 400 meters, more focused on VO2 max. And so for me, I spend the majority of my mileage in zone 1, zone 2 right now. Even when I'm training and adding speed workouts in, most of my mileage is in that lower heart rate. There's plenty of research, and I've had enough anecdotal experience that I get faster, feel healthier, and get more efficient when I do mostly base work. And also, if you're always pushing your heart rate or always pushing yourself on every single run, you may be leaving gains on the table, or you might be increasing your chances or risks of getting injured. And so I spend most of my time in zone 1, zone 2, and what's really nice about this is also mentally it isn't as hard. 80% of my miles are actually really enjoyable. It's calm, it's easy, I get to think a little bit more, meditate, breathe, versus if I was always doing zone 4 on every single run, you got to be so dialed in and focused on finishing that run. So if you don't know what your heart rate zones are, I would just Google, find a YouTube video explaining how to calculate your heart rate zones. There's a couple different ways I've seen that done. The best would be go into a lab and get it actually tested, but I had someone that I trusted to do it for me, and I've just stick to what they told me my heart rate zones were. So that's the first pillar, and that's the majority of my running. That's pretty easy to check off throughout the week. Now the second thing is speed work. Now at the end of the day, you do want a good base, and I've seen people out there talk about how you should only run in zone 2 for the first 2 years of training, and once you have a base, then you can stack on speed work. I mean, there's probably some validity to that. I also know if you want to get faster, you have to run faster, right? And you have to run faster than you can sustain for a long effort sometimes, right? So if, for example, if I can run 6 miles at a 10-minute mile pace, and that's zone 2, I might only be able to do 3 miles at a 6:30 minute mile pace or something like that. And so I'm not getting as much distance, but I'm pushing the limits and finding something that is a little bit harder and more difficult to sustain for a long time. So I know there's intervals, there's fartlek runs, there's different type of tempo workouts, and so I could spend tons of time talking about the different ones out there. I really like to just do mile repeats right now. I'm going to consider doing some more zone 5 interval like 200, 400 meter tempo workouts as I train for this St. George Marathon and improve my VO2 max. But regardless of what you do, I think speed workouts are really important and are going to help you get faster. So as I get into my marathon training, I'll do 1 or 2 speed workouts a week. And I think even if you're in a general maintenance phase, you could still throw in some tempo miles once a week or twice a week, even if you're not like trying to get really fast to PR. It's just always, in my opinion, good to push that system. So even if I'm not training as intensely for like a race, I still like speed work throughout my months of running, just to keep what I have or try and maintain that fitness as best as possible. So those are 2 things I want to check off. And if I can't do a lot, or if I can't do the speed workout that I want to, or I'm too beat up to be able to do those intervals at a pace I know I need to do, then it's not worth running 90 miles a week, because I also want to improve the speed. So that's part of this point is, hey, maybe you can run 80 miles a week, and if that aligns with your goals and you're happy with it, that's great. If you're trying to get faster, which I think most runners are, maybe running 80 miles a week drains you so much that you don't have either the mental bandwidth or the physical ability because you're too fatigued to do speed workouts. So like I said, I've dialed down on my volume. I run about 50 miles a week, but that I feel good, and then I'm also able to have what I need for when I have my speed workout days. Now those are 2 things. The 2 pillars that most runners I think focus on. These other 2 I think are really important for reducing injury risk and feeling good in general throughout the day. Maybe you can run 80 miles a week, but you're super tight and uncomfortable throughout the day at work, or it's really hard to get up off the couch to play with the dog or play with the kids. And so that brings me to this 3rd pillar of flexibility or mobility. I've simplified this for myself. I think some people get overwhelmed by doing like an hour mobility workout or an hour of doing yoga, and because that's overwhelming or too much, people just throw away flexibility altogether. So yeah, okay, have some discipline and do it. But one of the things I do that I think still helps me hit this pillar without having to always do these 1-hour yoga sessions as much as I love them is stretching for 5 to 10 minutes after every single run. I like this because I'm already warm. So like I'm a certified yoga teacher, and you have to warm up and do certain poses that are easier until you get deeper into poses or poses that take more flexibility. And that's good because if you're too cold, you can pull something, or you can't get into the pose as deep or as much as you want to. And so it's the idea of warming up throughout the yoga class. You have an hour-long yoga class, you warm up, you start dialing up the intensity or the flexibility of yoga. And so when you're warm, you're not going to hurt yourself. And so that's why I like stretching right after a run, because I'm plenty warm, right? Just got finished running 10 miles, 5 miles, whatever. And if I go straight into stretching, I really like that because I just feel like I can get into the stretches deeper. And what can happen, at least for me, is if I run and then I shower, hop in the car, go sit at my desk at work, I feel my body get a little bit more tight as I cool down. And so I found that if I stretch for 5 to 10 minutes after every single run, that goes away for the most part, or I don't cool down and tighten up as much. And so I personally would rather shave off a half a mile or a mile of my run to fit in the stretching at the end than say, hey, I got 5 miles instead of 4. And so part of this has to do with time, right? If you have some discipline or you have the ability, you should just make time for it, right? I get that a lot of runners have family and kids and they travel and work and jobs and dogs and all the house chores you got to do. And so if you have an hour and that's all you have in the morning for your run, my point is I would rather you run for 50 minutes and then stack on 5-10 minutes of stretching right afterwards. And it's just going to reduce your injury risk, in my opinion. I know there's a lot of people say that stretching hurts them and it's bad for them, and that's why they don't do it. There might be some truth to that to some people, but maybe they're stretching too hard when they're not warmed up. Maybe their body is just so tight in general that they aren't used to it and it feels uncomfortable. Or maybe they're not stretching with good form. Just like the gym, you can stretch pretty poorly and bend your back in a weird way or whatever it might be. And so anyone who's familiar with yoga, the first couple or maybe months of, like the first couple sessions or the first couple months of doing yoga, it hurts and it's uncomfortable. And if you were to just say, oh, it's not meant for me, my body can't stretch, I just don't think that's entirely true. If you're doing something you've never really done, like stretching, it's going to be uncomfortable, just like if you're lifting for the first time ever or first time in a long time, or just like when you start getting into running. And so if you give it enough time and you're patient and you're consistent, I think you'll actually find out that it's very helpful and you feel better. And there's also this meditative part of stretching that I love. And so it's not always just about the physical for me. So my point is trying to find and fit in stretching. And if I'm running, again, 80 miles a week, but I'm not able to find the time or have the mental energy or physical energy for stretching, it's not worth it to me. Again, dialing back the mileage so I have the bandwidth and time for stretching. And so, again, making it easy, just do it for 5 to 10 minutes after every single run, plan for it, shave down your run a little bit if you have to, or just build it in. If you typically run for an hour, maybe you have to wake up 10 minutes earlier so you have time for stretching before you shower or go to work or whatever it might be. So again, another big pillar. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing hour-long yoga sessions. I think those are great. I do them too. I'm just saying if you need to find a way to start doing it and it's less overwhelming to just think about 5 to 10 minutes opposed to carving out an hour in your week, at least you're getting it in. And then finally we have the strength part. I've been in the gym for several years now. I really enjoy it. There was a time where I was running 7 days a week and lifting 5 days a week. I don't do that as much anymore. But again, if I run 80 miles a week and don't have the time or energy for strength training, it's not worth it to me. And so right now I feel very comfortable where I can do 50 miles a week. I can still do base work, speed work, and I have the mental and physical energy for stretching and strength work as well. So I think a lot of people overcomplicate strength training. I know there's a bunch of different philosophies about high weight, low rep, or low weight, high rep, HIIT workouts, like body weight versus machines versus barbell and dumbbells. I think ultimately just start doing something and you'll find out what works for you. I'll share what works for me. Currently what I do is I lift 3 days a week. I do more of a push-pull legs type of split. I've done other things too, but I just really like this. Where I do chest and shoulders and triceps on Monday typically. Then I do leg day on Tuesday, which is after my speed workout because I would do speed in the morning and then find time during lunch or in the evening for leg day. And then I'll do back and biceps Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Like, it just depends on my week. I'm not super hardcore that my pull day has to be every single time has to be Thursday. I just find what day works best for me. Or maybe I was planning on a Thursday, I don't feel that great, so then I do it on a Friday. So that works for me. I do a little bit of core with every single workout opposed to doing like a 20-minute core session. And so I add on different types of core exercises like hanging leg raises, cable crunches, planking after each of those, right? So I might do hanging leg raises on Monday after my push day, cable crunches after my leg day on Tuesday, and then whenever I do pull, I like to do planks. I think those are very good too. So, regular planks, side planks. And so that's strength training. Now you might want to lift more, or you might want to lift less, or maybe you like full body workouts, or just body weight opposed to lifting heavy weights. I think whatever works for you is the best. I know I've seen different research or philosophy on what's the best for running. This happens to be not only just what's good for me in my running, but also what I enjoy. And I like push-pull legs opposed to full body or calisthenics or whatever. So I might change that. I've been thinking about it, but as of right now, that's a little bit of what my routine looks like. And it's important for me to get this and those other 4 pillars in play. So maybe there comes a day where I'm fitter, or I have more time, or I'm willing to push a little bit more and I go to 60 or 70 miles. This feels like a good, well-rounded training program for me. So maybe you're good at a lot of these and you just need to throw in one. Maybe you evaluate and say, you know what, I'll dial back some of my volume of running, or I'll just make the time and find a way to throw in another pillar. I think this is what has helped me stay healthy for the most part, avoid injuries, and I've come to love all of these. I like base work, I like speed workout, I like strength training, I like yoga and stretching, and I feel good doing that. And at 50 miles a week, I feel less shame because I have these other things I'm doing. I don't feel as bad that I'm not running 80 miles a week. Maybe someday I do want to increase that volume. This makes me feel a little bit more satisfied with my training. So ultimately, figure out what works for you. If you like running, that's what this channel is about. I just talk about my races, things I've learned, what I do for training, and I'm always open to questions. If you put them in the comment, maybe I can make a video on that to explain my thoughts and opinions on the question. So if you like that stuff, consider subscribing. If not, I still hope you got something out of this video, and I hope I get to see you in another one sometime soon. Peace!